Attila the Hun was a warlord whose name scared people all over Rome. He is one of the most mysterious and scary figures in ancient history. History calls Attila the Scourge of God. His rule was the peak of Hunnic power in Europe. He brought down the Eastern and Western Roman empires through smart military strategy, psychological warfare, and cruel ambition. His wars changed the political scene in late antiquity. They sped up Rome's fall and created a short-lived but terrifying empire that spanned from the steppes of Central Asia to the heart of Gaul. The Huns came from the vast steppes of Eurasia. They were part of a long line of horse-mounted archers who traveled and threatened settled societies for thousands of years. The Huns first appeared on Europe's eastern edges in the late 4th century AD. They moved to the west because of climate change, tribal wars, or the desire to find new pastures as nomads. When the Huns came, they started the Great Migration period. Germanic tribes like the Goths, Vandals, and Alans were forced to move into Roman territory because of the Huns' constant pressure. They were experts at mounted warfare and lived in the saddle. They were also very mobile and fierce. Their mixed bows were more potent than Roman artillery, and their hit-and-run strategy made them hard to catch in battle. Attila and his brother Bleda were related to Ruga, the Hunnish king who started to strengthen Hunnish power before he died in 434 AD. Both brothers ruled the Hunnic tribes, but Attila seems to have been the more powerful one from the start. The Treaty of Margus, which they made with the Eastern Roman Empire in 435 AD, was their first big move. It doubled the amount of tribute they had to pay the Huns every year to 700 pounds of gold. This deal showed that the brothers knew the Romans were weak and that they could get a lot of money by threatening to invade. Attila and Bleda ruled together for 10 years, but disagreements were apparent. Bleda died in 445 AD, and the cause of his death is unknown, but most sources say Attila had him killed. Now that his brother was out of the way, Attila was the clear leader of the Huns, and could do whatever he wanted. Despite his reign lasting only 8 years, he had a profound impact on the ancient world. When the Balkan Wars happened, between the years 441 and 447 AD, Attila's first major campaign was in the Balkan provinces of the Eastern Roman Empire. In 441 AD, he launched a surprise attack, seizing key cities like Singidunum, which is now Belgrade, and Nisus, now known as Nis, after the Romans violated the treaty terms. The Huns' mastery of siege tactics, including the use of battering rams and other engines, caught everyone off guard, demonstrating Attila's strategic brilliance. In 443 AD, the Eastern Emperor Theodosius II was forced to offer peace. The Treaty of Anatolius, which raised the annual tribute to 2,100 pounds of gold, was a significant blow to the Eastern Empire's finances. When the Romans failed to meet their obligations, Attila invaded again in 447 AD. His campaigns, which made it to the walls of Constantinople before being repelled, were a constant drain on the Eastern Empire's resources, highlighting the weight of his military power. When Attila's most famous campaign, the invasion of Gaul in 451 AD, began, the reasons were unclear. Honoria, the sister of Western Emperor Valentinian III, is said to have sent Attila her ring and a request for help to get out of an arranged marriage. Whether this was an actual marriage proposal or just a good reason, Attila saw it as a claim to half of the Western Empire. In 451 AD, Attila led a vast coalition force, between 300,000 and 700,000 men, across the Rhine and into Gaul. Not only Huns were in his army, but Ostrogoths, Gepids, and Alans were his subjects. Before the Battle of the Catalonian Plains, also known as the Battle of Chalons, the Huns attacked and took over Metz and Orleans. A Roman and Visigoth force met them. In this epic battle, Attila went up against Flavius Aetius, a Roman general, and Theodoric I, king of the Visigoths. The battle was a bloody tie that stopped Attila's advance but didn't destroy his army. It is often portrayed as a decisive Roman victory. Theodoric was killed, and Attila could leave without a fight, keeping his troops ready for future battles. The next year, Attila turned his attention to Italy itself. After crossing the Alps, he destroyed the big city of Aquileia so badly that the people who lived there ran away to the lagoons that would become Venice. Other cities in northern Italy, like Padua and Verona, fell quickly after. Attila looked like he was going to take the Eternal City himself, since the Western imperial court had left Rome for Ravenna. Then, for some reason, he turned around. A medieval story says that Pope Leo I miraculously stopped them, but it's more likely that his army was sick, there wasn't enough food, and he heard that Eastern Roman forces were moving against his home countries. For some reason, Italy was saved from destruction, but the campaign weakened the Western Empire. In addition to being a great soldier, Attila was also very good at politics. The historian Priscus wrote a vivid account of his visit to Attila's camp in 449 AD. He talked about a complicated leader who was both simple and bright, like a barbarian. Attila maintained that psychological warfare couldn't defeat him. He said he had the sword of Mars, a divine weapon that would always win. Before the battle, his enemies were scared off by stories about his cruelty, like the alleged field of bones where enemies were skeletons. He could be kind to loyal followers, giving them loot to keep them faithful. Attila was very good at using Roman divisions to his advantage diplomatically. He kept demanding more and more money from Constantinople while threatening and negotiating with the West at the same time. He had a deep understanding of power dynamics that most steppe conquerors don't have, as shown by his ability to change Roman politics without permanently taking over. Attila's empire differed significantly from Rome's, which had a centralized government. The Huns continued to move around, and Attila's capital was probably just a massive camp of wagons and tents on wheels somewhere in the plain of Hungary. His power didn't come from formal institutions but from his charisma and military success. The Gepids, Ostrogoths, and Alans were all part of the Hunnic military, which comprised people from different ethnic groups. The elite Hunnic horse archers stayed at the center, but Attila was very good at bringing together various types of warriors into a single fighting force. Their strategy was based on speed, surprise, and fear. They launched sudden attacks, pretended to retreat, and tried to have the most psychological effect possible. The empire's economy was based on theft and paying Roman taxes. The constant flow of gold from Constantinople paid for Attila's wars and kept the tribes loyal. The sudden death of Attila in 453 AD is still a mystery. Priscus's story is the most likely one. He died on the night of his wedding to Ildiko, possibly from a hemorrhage, a nosebleed, while he was drunk. His empire fell apart almost immediately. Tribes under Attila's control rebelled while his sons fought over who would become king. In 454 AD, a group of Germanic tribes beat the Huns at the Battle of Nidau, ending their rule over Europe. Within a generation, the Huns were either forgotten by history or moved back to the steppes. The Western Roman Empire fell apart faster because of Attila's invasions. Even though he didn't directly destroy Rome, his wars weakened the empire's defenses and drained its money. In 476 AD, only 23 years after Attila's death, the last Western emperor was driven out of power. In Christian Europe, Attila was seen as the ultimate bad guy, the Scourge of God sent to punish a society for being bad. In the Nibelungenlied, he is portrayed as the good but tragic Etzel. Some Turkic and Central Asian people, on the other hand, remember Attila more positively as a great conqueror. Later Hungarian tradition said that the Huns were ancestors, but modern research doesn't agree. Attila's campaigns showed that steppe warfare could be effective against settled civilizations. Later conquerors like the Mongols would use this lesson to their advantage. His ability to lead a group of tribal forces while staying mobile and sneaky influenced the development of nomadic empires. Archaeological evidence is still scarce because the Huns didn't build many permanent structures. New research focuses on Attila's political intelligence, seeing him as a barbarian conqueror and a skilled leader who handled complicated international relations. Attila's story reminds us that history's most essential figures often come out of the blue, that empires built on fear rarely last longer than their founders, and that even the most potent conquerors die just like the people they ruled. The Scourge of God died not at the hands of an enemy but at the hands of human weakness. It was a fittingly mysterious end for one of history's biggest mysteries.